the diamond world in terms of the industry bodies, and we really are an incredibly distinguished company. And joining me is starting from Vipul, who has been really instrumental in assembling this conference and making sure everything has reached the absolute heights of press and media attention. I don't know if he specially went to Moscow to speak to President Putin and ask him to grace the World Diamond Conference, but he certainly succeeded, and he looked tremendously happy, and rightly so, yesterday on the podium, sitting next to such a distinguished delegation from the Russian Federation. Next to him is Ernest Blum, and he of course needs no introduction. Edward Asher, similarly, and Maxim Shkadov of the IDMA. We are looking forward to hearing Maxim's thoughts on this very interesting agreement between India and Russia. And next to him is Stefan Fischler, who also has some very interesting views. So, gentlemen, I really wanted to kick off by asking Maxim, first of all, for his thoughts on the agreement between India and Russia and what he feels it means to manufacturing, particularly in Russia, and in terms of collaboration with Indian manufacturers and retailers.
Thank you very much.
Delighted to hear it.
Some important meeting was yesterday with the President. For us, the most important thing that our President cared about, so important for us, for the Russian local, and the Russian diamond miners and the Russian diamond manufacturers, and it's very important for us to be in the finding solution with our Indian colleagues, our Indian friends, and we have some ideas how to do it, and because it's not only in the Russian supply, you understand that if you heard from our President the message to the industry, to the business, this message, it's very easy. Okay, we're ready to work together, we're ready to supply the Rust, but we have to be in the manufacturing field as well. That's a very important thing. And for initiative of our association, we offer for to include to agreement the idea, which I heard also yesterday from the speech of the Prime Minister of India about the free trade between Russia and India. It's very important for us also because the Russian market is quite difficult. Who knows it, who had any experience to be there, understand what I mean. And for us, more important to be the transparent system on the market, because we have the income duty about 20% for the Polish diamond from outside, and of course it's not help for the trade, and a lot of goods coming, how to say, on the table, I would say, like this, you know. And of course it's nobody like it, and so many unfair things happened in the Russian market because of that, because it's not transparent. That's why it's our offer was to cancel any taxes, to make this free trade between India and Russia, because we know there's a lot of Indian goods we can use in Russia for the jewelry, for the trade, and it's okay. The Russian manufacturers not going to get any damage from that, because we know we are on the international market. We are competing already more than 50 years. That's why we are ready for that, and we understand we are not producing such goods that our Indian friends produce. That's why I think it's it will help for all, for both sides, and from political view and from the business view as well. That was our initiative, and the Russian market potentially very interesting, and it's growing. Of course, now it's quite a difficult time because the sanctions and oil going down. It's the Russian currency very dependent on that, and but the people now, what's going on right now? I have information. It's because of our currency going weak, the people run into the jewelry shop to spend the money for the diamonds as well. That's why we expected some good sales before the season, in the season. That's why I'm thinking all the good and the positive things I can find from the agreement, which.
In practical terms, how is this agreement going to be implemented? Are we going to see a lot of joint ventures, Indian companies going to Russia, working with Russian factories, helping to establish Russian factories?
But practically, yes. I think it's open the possibility for the business to make joint ventures and to make joint ventures not only rough sales, for example, and rough manufacturers, and together jewelry manufacturers. We understand that India is a huge jewelry producer, and for the joint trade. And the trade, as I said already, for us, for the local manufacturers, most important thing to make is standard transport system to sell the jewelry and the other luxury items on the Russian market.
Thank you. And Stefan, from the international perspective, what impact do you think this historic agreement between Russia and India is going to make on markets like Antwerp and Dubai?
The question everybody was waiting for. Frankly, I think it is always good that the international diamond industry sees these kind of high-level talks where president for a reporting mining country and prime minister for the manufacturing country meet, discuss, trying to enhance both their position. It's always enhancing the industry when more exchanges, more talks, more possibilities are explored. In terms of the international, let's say, supply channels, I don't think it will make a huge difference. I believe the channels are well established. I think it's important to concentrate also what we've always done in this industry is to concentrate on the core competences of our distinct centers. I mean, we have not been in this business for the last year, 2 years. We have been in Antwerp for the last 550 years. India has a rich history in the diamond business, and we have been very fortunate to develop core competences, whether in Antwerp, in Israel, in Mumbai, in Africa, all over. Everybody has developed his own talent, and what's important is to bring them together, work together, use these core synergies for the betterment of the industry. One thing I would like to talk about is what Howard Davis said when he spoke about turning away from the world of Mazal Ubracha. It's a huge challenge that the BS has, brought to the table to the industry, because I still believe this industry is only sustainable on the words and on the keeping of the meaning of Mazal Ubracha. I don't think any effort to bring in as much systems in place, whether the bankers, whether the authorities and so on, if the people are not to be trusted anymore, any amount of software system will not correct that. We are challenged, and maybe rightfully challenged because of the actions of very few in our industry, and it's not only in India, it's all over. Very few have challenged us, have challenged the trust of the bankers that they put in the industry, and we need to prove them wrong. We need to prove, and especially our WATB, we're all members of WATB, they have to take the gauntlet of the challenge. And we have to make sure that the world must allow us to thrive high in the industry.
Edward Usher, do you think that the industry is going to be able to display that kind of trustworthiness that is required from the financiers of it and the unity that we've been hinting at throughout these 2 days of discussions?
That's a really good question. I think the majority of the industry is displaying. We can criticize the things that are happening that shouldn't. But the majority of the industry is responsible and operating according to the rules as explained by the BIS and the ABN AMRO Bank. But what you see is globalization. Site holders are per definition big companies. And then there are some rough diamond dealers who are site holders. But the majority of the diamantaires, they are not site holders. So they depend on dealers who sell the rough to them. And then there is a quite complicated and interesting industry of medium-sized and smaller companies that make the livelihood, but also the size of the business so interesting. But we see globalization and we see that companies are working more together and that there is also vertical integration. Now if you look at it from my perspective of the World Diamond Council, what I explained yesterday, that is that the things that have been discussed today and this morning are the things that are risks or could be considered risks to the Kimberley process. And the World Diamond Council will do everything possible to defend the Kimberley process because it has been important to all African countries and to all countries where diamonds are manufactured but also sold. It is about the confidence of the consumer in our product. And together with my neighbor, I will, with the World Federation of Diamond Brokers and the CIPJO, we will study the risk and we will do everything we can to defend the integrity of the industry. But let's make one thing sure, that's how I started, that the majority of the industry is compliant to the rules of the KP and of the banks and the government.
Ernest Bloom, do you think you're going to see any divisions arising within the diamond bourses? I mean, is there not a danger that Antwerp, Dubai are going to feel left out?
I don't think so. I think that each and every bourse has its own niche in the market. Each and every bourse caters for its own members. And we're one big family, the family of the World Federation of Diamond Bourses. And I think we have a symbiotic relationship. And that symbiotic relationship feeds off one another. And the more bourses we have, the more interaction we have, the better it is for business. And what we see around the world, and it's starting in India as well, is the international trade fairs around the world. We had one in Dubai, we've had one in New York, we had one in Israel coming up, there's been one in Antwerp. And this is fantastic for business. So no, I don't see any competitiveness. I see, yes, business competitiveness, but that's good. It's good for the market. So I'm very happy with what's evolved. And I'm very grateful that the countries do have the opportunity to expand their businesses, as we saw today and yesterday in Delhi.
Well, India is certainly one of those countries which is poised for huge expansion. Vipul, what does this mean in practical terms in terms of the structure of the diamond industry here in India?
First of all, this was the first ever World Diamond Conference taking place in India, and for that I would like to thank everyone who have been affiliated with this World Diamond Conference and made it a huge success. And this means a lot. Our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, as well as the President, Mr. Putin, both giving the solid foundation by attending this World Diamond Conference itself shows their backing towards the gems and jewelry industry as a whole. We are thankful to our Ministry of Commerce, who have been very favorable and always been a part with us in helping us to to expand our Indian market share as far as our exports are concerned. And also thankful to all the important trade associations, all bodies, and Purple Diamond, as well as ITMA, World Diamond Council, World Federation Diamond Pools, all important mining companies, Alrosa, Rio Tinto, DBS. First of all, thank you very much for making this conference a grand success. Thank you all, and it means a lot for the Indian market, and we need this kind of support. And India is the market, India is the place, India is the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that passionate thing. Stefan, you look poised to come back.
Yes, thank you. A few issues. First of all centers must be very conscious that they need to prepare the next generation of this industry. They have to give a chance to this next generation to grow. That's where the new Venus, Hare Krishna, those kind of giants that you've been fortunate to have with you will be created. And I address myself to the bankers in the room as well. Look at the small and medium company. In India, I know I'm here in India in support of that. It's where the future, your future will be built. There are excellent companies, good collaterals. Have a look at them, give them a chance. I think it's extremely important for the future of India that the banking community will be there. A second point I'd like to talk about is maybe a little bit more controversial. It's about, of course, margins in the industry and pricing. There's been a lot of discussion on reliance of tenders by mining companies to do their pricing. We should be very careful not to go into a perverse situation where the mining companies will track the capabilities of companies to their abilities to offer high prices on tenders. That's exactly what's happening for the moment. A lot of people positioning themselves because the game is being played like this and are skewing the price setting, especially in the rock business. We should be very, very careful. We all know it's a highly competitive business, but I'm speaking not only in the interest of the manufacturers there, but in the interest of the sustainability of rock prices for mining companies. So, in essence, I'd like everybody to take stock of this, that we need to find a system where sustainable margins are built, where producers do not rely on simply political bidding on tenders to do their pricing. I think it's quite important. We don't have much time to discuss this, but I think it's a very, very important subject.
Thank you. And I'd just like to ask each of the panelists for their thoughts on the discussions that have taken place over the last 2 days, really where you feel we've come to in terms of the industry, whether we've made progress in uniting the industry along the path set by the World Diamond Mark. Maxime.
At present, the sector of the diamond market were trying to make added value. Why I say to try to make added value? Because in some presentation I see we have added value, but in theory, but in the practice we don't have. We understand it's how much we can get from the rough price level for the moment. We understand it's a very big pressure for the price of the polish. This pressure comes into the sector where it was present. And of course our most biggest concern to return the margin back to this sector of the industry. Of course not like Alex said 800 to 100%. I think manufacturers understand it's enough 15 to 16%, but at least it will help to work, to develop, to invest money for new equipment, to teach people, to skill people, to make social responsibility. I think it's my colleagues from India understand what I'm talking about. And this sector is very important for the industry. We haven't forget about it. And this part of the business, it's not a hobby, it's a business. For the last few years, it's getting less hobby. That's why. Am I right? You understand what I'm talking about? And when I see the pipeline, it's great. I see it's added value from the rough to the polish, and I see it. I count the margin to 30%. Nice. If somebody has 30% here, I'm not sure. That's why we have to be transparent. We have to be bankability. I see some new words for me. But we do, but we have to speak each other about that reality, about the real figures where we work. And everything will be clearer for us. And the banks, I absolutely agree with Stefan, the banks have to support us as well, have to trust, because it's our business based on the Mazal Braka, it's correct. And the banks, not only the trust and not only to help us, the banks did from us, again, the figures that I saw did from us, it's $1.1 billion. It's a good one, I think. And of course, it's also the businessmen understand that that's why it's very important to support this sector. As I said, whereas we give my presence. Thank you.
Edward, with all your experience of the industry over many years, do you see that transparency making a difference now?
Yeah, I see that more and more companies and people realize what actually is meant by transparency. And as described this morning, that your suppliers, your customers, and above all your bank understands what you are doing and really has a total picture of the company. But what I learned today and yesterday as a major issue that is very important for big industries is marketing. If you look at the reports that we have received over the last 2 years from McKinsey, from Insight, from the Beers, and from Bain this week, you see that marketing and branding is very important. Because in this big industry where we are today, if everybody is doing the same, and a lot of people are selling into the market, but if the market drops, then your business is gone. So you have to develop direct customers. And the big reports write also about branding. I remember the introduction of the supplier of choice. Everybody started branding, and very few are still alive. So I would prefer niche marketing, in which you specialize in things, than doing everything for everybody, because that's very dangerous.
That's a good message.
Thank you. And Ernest, your perspective.
Well, firstly, I think yesterday was a historical occasion when you saw the benefits of industry and government getting together to determine the future of an industry in that particular country. And I reflected back and I spoke to our minister and I said, this is where you see success happening. And I want to congratulate the Indian diamond community as well as the Indian government for doing this momentous step forward. I think it's fantastic. And I said to my minister that we need to take a leaf out of the book of the Indians. And you see a successful industry if the industry and government can work together for a common cause. And I think this is what happened yesterday. Having said that, I think that we as an industry also have to take ownership for our own futures. We cannot rely on anybody to look after us. We have to look after ourselves. To this end, I think the World Diamond Mark has taken a momentous step forward in one of the reasons, or one of the steps forward for us to look after our own destiny. But again, I don't think we can see ourselves in isolation. We have to work with all our partners. We have to work with the banks, as we said. We have to work with the mining companies. And we have to collectively determine our futures, because the one cannot survive without the other. And if the attitude of survival for me takes place, then I think our industry is going to suffer. So we as an industry throughout the whole pipeline have to work together for a common goal to make a sustainable industry for the future generations.
Thank you. And Stefan?
Yes.
One final word.
Just a thought that everybody should understand. A reputation can be lost. It cannot be found back again. And once you lose your reputation, all your partners will not recognize you, will leave you. And I'm very serious in the industry. We have to take a responsibility. Whenever the trade is abused, bankers are abused, service providers are abused, we have to take responsibility for this and make sure those people cannot operate anymore. I mean, bankers, it's a good business for bankers. They will not shy away easily from a good business. And they shy away for good reasons. So we do have a responsibility to uphold the reputation of this industry.
Thank you very much. And one final word from Vipul at the end of 2 days of discussions where we've seen some really momentous events taking place, geopolitically as well as directly affecting India.
It's been a very great conference as far as India is concerned, and what we are taking out from this, what we are coming out from this conference also, it's important that we need to be more focused on generic marketing as such, because we have to compete and we have to move upstream, and we have to, if generic marketing is not promoted in the right manner, it's not good for the industry. So I think it's loud and clear that we all, association, all bodies, needs to come together and try and spend on generic marketing.
Thank you very much indeed. And before I go to Chaim for a look forward, we had at the beginning of the conference a review of the position of the industry. I'd just like to say thank you to all our panelists and these immense wells of expertise on the diamond industry and indeed on the German jewellery industry too. So thank you very much indeed, gentlemen. One final word to Chaim to come up to summarise where he believes the industry stands. He's been observing events in the diamond industry, developments on the world stage for many years now. So there is no better person to summarise the perspective on the diamond industry today. Chaim.
I really think that everything that needed to be said has been said. And I listen now to all our leaders, and especially to Stefan. I just want to add one footnote, and that is really all. We look at the government and the government agreements. At the end of the day, governments, the support of governments are very, very, very important. That their main role should be to facilitate the business. And when India has grown to what it has grown, not because of government, but because of the business. And if I listen to the questions that you ask about the joint ventures and other things with Russia, the diamond business is competitive. Every diamond has its natural place where it is going to be cut and polished. There's a natural place where you get the highest yield out of it and the best profitability out of it. And I have news for you. We have every year about 1.1 billion stones getting into the market. Okay? Every year we're getting close to 32, 33 million carats into the market. Those stones are all cut and polished where it is economically efficient. Yes, we have sometimes problems because of government. We heard Ernie talking about South Africa and about his government and his minister. And where is the minister? I don't see him. And the previous minister, Susan. I mean, governments want to help the industry, and they want to compel producers, give the diamonds here and not there, etc. It won't work. Because if they do that, then you have unsustainable business, you get distortions in the business, and if we are unified, we have to be unified on one thing only. We want a competitive global industry. Like Stefan said, at the end of the day, the distribution channels are pretty much clear. Every diamond miner, when he sees his diamond, he knows already where it's going to be at the end, it's going to be polished. And we have to fight as an industry distortions. We have to fight that you get unsustainable businesses. We're having now around 20 factories in Botswana. All those factories are there because they were promised rough. But are the factories sustainable? No. Some of them maybe at some point. But it doesn't make economic sense. If something doesn't make economic sense, it doesn't make sense, period. We don't have to discuss it. The great thing about India is that the industry here makes economic sense. And that is why in 1970, you had only 1960 something, you only had a few hundred cutters here, not only thousands, only a few hundreds. See how fast you have risen. Because it makes economic sense. And I've also another side to it. If tomorrow it makes more economic sense to have everything done in China, it will go to China. And if the next time, if we get to the Mars, to the moon, and it can be done then, it will be done there. Because of course, in diamonds, of course, the transportation cost is the only thing that counts. To the moon, it may be a little bit off. But otherwise, it's not like other other industries that you need an infrastructure of transport systems, for diamonds, you need some electricity, but that you can get it everywhere nowadays, and you can move. The great thing about our industry today and our future is that there is a growing generalization. Also, when you talk about your government, they realize it. And we have seen distortions. When you force diamonds in a certain place, you get smuggling. And you get all kinds of other things. Reputational issues are becoming so important that we as an industry must reduce distortions, because then we are all on a level playing field. And that is what the future has to have in store for us. If we can work on a level playing field, get away with those forced supplies in Botswana or other places where it is not really economically feasible. And again, Maxime, where is sitting? Maxime has gone, where is he? Oh, Mexico, fine. Russia is good for certain products, not for all the products. Russian is good, but you can manufacture in Russia, it will be done. What can be done in Yakutia will be done. But it cannot be forced. This is an industry of entrepreneurs. It's an industry not only of interest, it is an industry where people have faith in their own product. And when we spend so much money, or the bank's money, in buying very heavy, very expensive raw material, every percentage point makes a big difference. You want to have it as much as efficient as possible. So with all due respect for all the government agreements, it is important to have government support, but the government support should be to create the facilitating environment for us to go forward. And if all the governments that are behind us understand that, take away impediments, take away unnecessary taxation, get away from all kinds of fictitious things about, when the government says we have all kinds of presumptive taxations and other things, it's very much because they don't know how to deal with it. That is their problem. They should not intervene in the free enterprise. The government, the companies will do what they have to do. If they have to have balance sheets, they will have the balance sheets. There will be transparency. There will be transparency. And the only thing we can ask for from our government is, let us work. Let us work, and then the future will be good for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Fine. And before we proceed to the end of the formal part of this World Diamond Conference, we have a few more presentations to make, and I'd like to call on Olivier Mellerio to come up, and Alex and Manish Jain to present our token of appreciation to him. Thank you. Yes, he's coming.
Manish Jain. Give the designation of Manish. Okay.
I don't know. Vice President of the Retailers Association of India, Manish Jain. Thank you. And to Stefan Fischler, Pankaj Parekh, are you both here in the room? Or have you escaped our clutches? We'll come back to Stefan and Pankaj. Thank you. Wonderful.
You don't want to three, no? Only these three right now. Then
This
some
one.
more and then this. And who stood up? Till three you have to do, then summing up and then go do this.
Okay. So that is the conclusion of our formal discussions, but just a word from the Government of India. We've had very strong support. What better support than a world announcement, something that's made the international news headlines with the agreement signed between the President of Russia and the Prime Minister of India. And so it's entirely appropriate that Mr. Siddharth Singh, who's the Director General in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry of India, should address the World Diamond Conference on the significance of having these very frank discussions, not just formally within these sessions, but also outside in the corridors. I've had some fascinating conversations, but my journalistic integrity won't allow me to reveal the contents of all those, but we'd be very grateful for your views. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, all of you, all distinguished delegates. We have had, I think, 2 days of very interesting, very interactive sessions here. And first of all, I would like to thank the GJEPC for coming up with this idea of having this World Diamond Conference in New Delhi. And when they came to us with the proposal, we of course backed them wholeheartedly. And I'm glad that the World Diamond Mark came along, and also, Alrosa, the company that got actively involved. And as we are all aware, it's a World Diamond Conference, but it so happened that on the sidelines there were agreements signed between the Russian company Alrosa and about 12 Indian companies, and the presence of President of the Russian Federation, Mr. Putin. So there was a Russian flavor which permeated the entire conference, you can't deny that. But it is indeed a World Diamond Conference. And I'm very glad to share with you all that I think in these 2 days, the whole objective of having this conference here was to bring all the stakeholders, all the players in this wonderful industry, come together, share their concerns, appreciate each other's concern, and then try and address them. And we are glad that, we've had miners, we have had retailers, we've had bankers. The government was there, was very much there, at least I can say for the Indian government. And we had representation from South Africa, the Honorable Minister was there. And you could feel that, all the things that we discussed here, it's not that it was not known, but it's always good to thrash them out again. It's always good to, update them again. It's always good to, face to face, you share these concerns with each other. And I think this is what we have done in the last couple of days. And I think to that extent, the conference has achieved its objective with which it had started off. I was told that, I have to kind of sum up from the point of view of government, that what does the government take away from this particular conference. What I could feel, if you go through the sessions that we have held, basically for this industry, it's very, very important that things are done in a very transparent and fair manner. You call it, whatever the trust, what we talked in the morning about reputations, everything was done on the basis of trust. But things have changed. Times are changing. It was very nicely put. And I think we all have to follow in line. And that is one very big important thing. And I think the government role starts with ensuring that we have very responsible and sustainable mining of diamonds to begin with. And the second thing which comes after that is to ensure that all trade in diamond is absolutely transparent and fair. And that, I think, all of us, most of us here, I'm sure all countries are members of the Kimberley process system. So we do address that thing through our Kimberley process system, an organization which has the blessings of UN. So we do that also. And thereafter, I think, very nicely put up by Mr. Zohar before me, that the government should only do facilitation. Very well said. I think it's been said before also, the government should govern, not do business. So it is the facilitation part which the government should take care of. And I'm very glad that, our Honorable Prime Minister yesterday in his speech gave us the direction what we have to go. I mean, he very clearly articulated what needs to be done in terms of the facilitation part. And the most important thing which he announced yesterday was the creation of special notified zones for trading of diamonds. What does it entail? It allows or facilitates consignment imports of diamonds, and the miners can directly bring their rough diamonds to India. Whatever is sold, whatever is unsold is allowed to be re-exported. It doesn't reflect on anybody's books. So this is what we mean by special notified zones. Honorable Prime Minister gave us the direction yesterday, and now it's up to us to take it forward. So this is one very concrete thing which has come out of this conference, and we are going to do it in terms of trade facilitation. The other thing which the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned, that he had made a request to the President of the Russian Federation, and that was to allow import of roughs from Russia, getting them polished, cut and polished here, worked on it here, and then allow it to be re-exported to Russia, and in Russia to be imported without duty. So I think this in itself, is a very good example of what can be done if we collaborate, if we cooperate, and this way, it doesn't involve any foreign exchange. The thing has come here, only the value addition takes place here, it goes back to Russia, there is no duty on this cut and polished diamond which goes back, and when it goes into their jewelry sector, to that extent, they do have that competitive edge, it goes up, and they end up, getting it made at a relatively more reasonable price, and with that they can, export it or sell it in their own domestic market. And the whole thing is, I think, very well put up by a gentleman spoke before me, the grand old man of the diamond sector, Mr. Zohar. We should look at diamond industry as one large, one unified big company. And the balance sheet should be, a unified balance sheet. If you fragment it between divisions, if you fragment it between countries, it gets diminished. But if you see it as one big company balance sheet, then I think it will look healthier and healthier. And that's what we should do. If the aim is to ensure that everybody gets diamonds which are mined in a very responsible and sustainable manner, traded in a very transparent manner, with the help of trade facilitation, if the transaction costs come down, then to that extent, it is available at a slightly lower price to the customer. The customer will then be attracted to buy more, and the industry will get healthier and healthier. So I think this is what we should aim at, and I think the government should also aim at moving towards this direction. There's one more thing which was very emphatically pointed out by the Honorable Prime Minister yesterday, the Commerce Secretary in the morning, and also thereafter the Secretary for Financial Services, Government of India, that in India we have about 3.5 million people who depend on this industry. Now, it is the duty of the government to ensure that this manpower, this skilled manpower is sustained, nurtured further, and the new manpower is developed in this particular field, because this expertise, this skill needs to be developed further, needs to be evolved with the help of new technology, etc. So skill development, I think, is a very important thing which again the government should look into. And I'm glad to share with you that Government of India has already done it, is doing it in a big way. We have our institutes in Surat, in Bombay, in Jaipur, in Delhi, all these places. And as mentioned by the Secretary in the morning, one of the institutes he visited recently, the last one of the graduate or the trainee who goes there gets employed. So the idea is that not only, the trade part, the mining part, but thereafter the skill development, what is the employment generation part of it, needs to be nurtured, because it means a lot to a country like India. Again, as far as the government is concerned, I think it's very important to ensure, I think very nicely put up by, I think it was Rio Tinto, what means by bankability or dependability on the part of the buyer. So if the companies maintain very clean, consistent, audited records, everything is transparent, I'm sure no banker will have any hesitation in extending finances to you. You know, it's a cycle. If you say that the bankers are not extending finance, there's a reason for it. It was nicely put that, they have a good reason why they are not doing it. And once those reasons are brought to our notice, and then I think the system, the administration, the authority should get cracking. Because if that is the thing that is holding back financing of this particular industry, I think then it's not fair at all. So I'm sure the concerned authorities have already taken notice of it. They are proceeding in the right direction, and let us hope that these things will also be taken care of. So the non-productive assets, etc., the banker's dilemma, definitely it's there. If they have these concerns also need to be addressed. And we are addressing all these concerns, as you will see. Well, I don't have much more to say. I'll only say that with the development of our mine at Bandar, our government will start on the responsible, sustainable mining part also will take care of. Kimberley process, as I said, we have been very active in. Trade facilitation, we are going through with special notified zones and the consignment imports. The condition of workers, the corporate social responsibility to be maintained by the manufacturing units, that also the government is aware of and is looking into. Skill development I've mentioned, and banks, how they need to be encouraged, I've already said so. In the end, I would only say that it's been a very fascinating, very entertaining 2 days for me, especially when it came to the retail sort of segments, Very nice, interesting ideas came up for discussions, especially the online sort of sale, etc., and the new ideas in marketing of diamonds, and some very nice catch lines, like a diamond is never second-hand, a diamond can be sold again and again. It is never old, it is never second-hand. These are fantastic things about this industry. And I think this is what we should concentrate on. And the glory and beauty of this industry, I think we should all come together and ensure that it is enhanced. And I think if we give confidence to the new generation buyer that the diamond which they are purchasing is responsibly mined, it is transparently traded, it is, whoever worked on it, the worker was taken care of, there was corporate social responsibility involved, I'm sure they'll be much more comfortable buying your product than they were earlier. So these are the things I think which the government should take care of. We will certainly look into these things. I would only like to say that we will put together the congenial atmosphere which is required for direct sales by mines in our country But my request will be to those miners, to those mining countries, to please use that thing once we put it in place. Because otherwise, we may just be unnecessarily pushing something which is not yielding any results. So we would want that whatever you want, whatever facilitation you want, whatever infrastructure you want, let us know. We'll put that in place. But let's give it a try. Let's give it a chance. There's enough for everyone. But whatever is bound to come to India, let it come direct. Let's cut costs. Let's make the end product more reasonable. Let the buyer, let the customer get the advantage. So that's what we are trying for. So what I'll do in the end, I would just like to say that in India, we assure you, whatever you give us, a big diamond, a small diamond, a tiny diamond, a cloudy diamond, give it to us, we'll cut it, polish it, shine it, and give it the sparkle this noble, this king of diamond stone needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. Some really fascinating messages coming through from the perspective from government, and I think the Indian government taking such a strong lead is going to inspire other governments in diamond important countries, if I can put it that way, to do the same. So I hope that this process will be publicised and will kickstart a process of re-evaluation about the engagement of governments in the diamond industry. For another word, I'd like to call on Mr. Saunak Parekh, who is a director of Mahendra Brothers, a very well-known company in India. Needs no introduction here in commercial terms. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I know it's been 2 long days with a lot of discussions amongst all of us. However, it would be appropriate to recap what we've really achieved, discussed in the last 2 days, and especially from the Indian perspective. So I would really go ahead with that. As we really come towards the end of this most unique, historical and memorable event, and as we step into the year 2015, I want to reiterate what Cam expressed. 2015, it is really India into the golden age. Thank you, Cam, for really bringing it up. Also, I take this opportunity to highlight some of the key takeaways of these last 2 days. As we all know, the new government already has created Vibrant India and not just Vibrant Gujarat, wherein our Honorable Prime Minister, after winning hearts of millions in India, is out in the world to conquer hearts of global citizens and is emerging truly as a global leader. The major thrust over the last 6 months post-election has been to strengthen the external bilateral relation and create positive environment for the business to grow and position India in the global map of most favored investing nation. We are privileged to witness this event being in the forefront of fostering Indian-Russian relationship and strengthening our old friendship. We are truly overwhelmed. We saw some of the key announcements by our PM, which Siddharthji has already covered and mentioned in his wrap-up. However, our Prime Minister, in his earlier remark, had said and invited everyone to come to India. And it will not be any red tape. However, red carpet will be offered to everyone coming in. The writing on the wall is very clear. We in India mean business. In his historical speech, Prime Minister mentioned that diamond is India's gift to the world. Almost all the diamonds that anyone sees in the entire planet has Indian fingers, Indian mark on each and every diamond. Commerce Minister extended full support to make India a leader in the world diamond industry, not only in manufacturing but also in trading. We are quite enthused by the government optimism and support to make our industry a showcase in their Make in India initiative. We saw yesterday Minister of State for Home Affairs acknowledged contribution made by the industry in creating 3.5 million jobs, out of which about 1 million jobs are offered by the diamond industry. And also contribution made by diamantaires to uplift rural areas and demonstrating many different CSR activities. The workers in the industry do get one amongst the best facilities and infrastructure to work all around the world. Referring to the Bharat Diamond Bourse, it's today's world's largest diamond bourse, and with the state-of-the-art infrastructure, India has evolved as a leader in the world diamond industry. Commerce Secretary this morning clearly highlighted that diamond industry is an important player in the foreign trade basket. He directed us to look at how industry can create greater value in the entire pipeline. He acknowledged the value addition in manufacturing. However, he emphasized there is a greater and exponential value addition in marketing and branding, and offered government support for all the relative initiatives. Another point he highlighted is India's major strength, which is its young population, who can be both consumer as well as mass provider of skilled personnel. It's time for us to leverage this strength. With Bandar mine seeing light of the day and government encouragement, India is the destination from mines to market. We also acknowledged the wholehearted support given by the Secretary of Financial Services. He highlighted in his speech importance of trust and confidence as key ingredient in any relationship. He assured to take stricter measure for default cases. He insisted that bankers should look at increasing their share of global diamond financing, which is about 40% compared to India's share in the diamond industry of roughly 70%. Sir, we thank you for your comment to strengthen relationship between trade and bankers and create opportunity to take it to the next level. On part of the bankers, what better comment than what Eric stated when he declared in his opening remark, we are together. We acknowledge the presence of the banking fraternity and their commitment as a stronger partner in walking together through this era of golden age. However, message from the bankers are clear: bankability. That is the function of profitability and transparency. On profitability, Khayyam did highlight its statistics. Profitability is an issue that requires ongoing dialogue between the suppliers and manufacturers, and to ensure that profitability remains in the manufacturing sector. Also, suppliers' participation in this event is an indication of good times moving forward. On transparency, I must thank and acknowledge Howard Davis, who in his crisp presentation actually has given us the roadmap to achieving highest level of global standards. Let me tell you that this is not only for the site holders. However, as a whole industry, I think we should adapt to these changing measures and move forward. Pranay, in his presentation, highlighted the proactive initiative taken by the Council in the form of My KYC Bank, which will go a long way in creating transparency and efficiency into the system. And we invite all the stakeholders, all the international bodies to please come and become a part of this initiative. Bankers have also recognized the fact that default cases are specific and due to some fly-by-night operators. It's not necessary the default is due to business, and that comments coming from leading banker means a lot. Thanking you for all your ongoing support. So really, in summary, the key takeaways: Indian diamond industry enters the golden age with strong trio in place: the government support, suppliers' commitment, and bankers' belief. For the entrepreneur who are ready to rock, future is already casted in rock solid of our favorite stone, the diamonds. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very comprehensive summary of the themes of this conference and some of the discussion conclusions that we've come to. I'd now like to call upon Mr. Ronnie van der Linden, President of the DIA, to present his thoughts on this World Diamond Conference and the discussions and the historic agreement between India and Russia.
It's going to be very short, everybody. And really, I made some notes, and I have to say that this afternoon's session, the work was all done. There's nothing for me to go over that hasn't been discussed already. So, number one, I've decided along, I'm sure, with all of our colleagues here that are foreigners, we're going to have to open up an office in India real soon. Number two, Anup, to you, your colleagues, Sanjay, I don't know if Vipul, if Anup is still here, actually. I want to say thank you. And I think to sum this all up in one word, everybody, the last 2 days have been quite impressive. And my congratulations. 3 months, I'm told. That's all it took you to put this whole plan together? Applause. Everybody, a big round of applause. The conference was conceived. Here we have the global diamond family, all of us sitting here together, speaking together, and speaking as an industry, not speaking as individuals. Very important to the banks, very important to government, and I am quite impressed by that. Thank you. Just on a couple of notes that I made here, I understand that there'll be a video available in the future of all of this so that we can all go back, look back, and revisit the conference. Pardon me?
It's online.
It's online already. Forget the video. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Tremendous amount of information, a lot of takeaway, impressive. The president, who would think that an American would be in front of the president of Russia today? That's in itself a little iffy. All right, to have Mr. Modi here, as dedicated as he is to your industry, impressive. I'm constantly reiterating the word, impressive, everybody. The collaboration and commitment that you have from industry, from government, from your industry leaders. This is why we are, back in New York, maybe 1,000 people employed. Your factories are bigger than what we have in employment. I want to say the preamble to the Constitution in the United States of America is "We the People." The preamble that comes out of this conference today is "We the Industry." And it's really been shown here in the last 2 days. The times are changing. Yes, they are. And so should we. And if we don't, we'll change one way or another. Eric, you mentioned that the future is yours, the future is ours, the future is whatever we decide to make of it. But I do want to call on all of you, because I think with all the review that we just had, one thing was missing. In depth, actually, but I'm not going to in depth. We right now are in the midst of our holiday season. And it's been somewhat lackluster, at least for us back in the United States. I would imagine it's no different for any of you out there. So I look at it and I used to say to myself, well, we know, we're talking about profitability, transparency. And I'm saying to myself, well, you know what? That's up to me. From the top down to my company, it's really and truly up to me, up to us. Where is the problem? The problem is we're not driving the consumer into the stores the way we need to drive the consumer into the store. Because if that consumer is making a purchase, regardless of what he's spending, it's healthy for all of us. So what is my takeaway here? Number one, we need to work with our suppliers. We need to work with our customers. Number two, we need to work with our banks. And number three, we need to work with our governments. But most of all, we need to work with the consumer. We need to understand the consumer's wants and needs. Kenneth Wong, how impressive was this man? He has a tray. He has a tray that actually will tell them their customer's buying experience. Can you imagine what that does for his inventory levels? It gets rid of all his dead inventory eventually. Innovation, differentiation, personalization. We need that. We need that all for the consumer. The need to learn what tools to apply. And I'm not a big social media guy by any stretch of the imagination, but that's another takeaway from here. The need to create a wholesome consumer experience, just like Chow Tai Fook and others that were here. We need to try to help, as much as we can, the retailers to create that experience, to drive the customers to the stores, whatever that takes. And that is the one lifeline that we all need. Diamonds are about emotion, aspiration. We need to take ownership, full ownership of that brand, the Diamond brand. And all I can say, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a great experience and a safe journey home to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Ronnie for that assessment, and again, some very interesting themes coming out of his summary. It's interesting how the different perspectives highlight different aspects of our discussions, but I think the joy of this kind of conference is to put together all the different sides of the prism and view it from different angles at different times when you reflect back on your flights and journeys away from the conference. Before I hand over to our wonderful conveners of the conference for a final word, I'd like to make some further presentations to our speakers and those who have contributed so richly to this conference. And I'd like to call upon Vipul to come up and Ernie to come up to present a token of appreciation to Siddharth Singh from the Government of India. Thank you. Thank you. And Pankaj Parekh, if you could very kindly make the presentation to Ronnie, who's just sat down. I should have kept you up here. And Edward, if you could make the presentation with Pankaj. Thank you. Don't have arguments, gentlemen.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Take my 10 slides, please. Thank you very much, Edward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chaim, if you could kindly come up to present to Sanak Parekh. Thank you. So now over to our conveners of this wonderful World Diamond Conference in India. I don't think it's a conference any of us will ever forget. It's created some real memories, some wonderful friendships as well, which is always the best thing about any industry conference. But I think some people came together here in Delhi and had conversations, and they wouldn't ordinarily have had those conversations. I think new ideas have been flowing all over the place. So we've really broadened horizons, and that's been very much due to the vision of Alex Popov and the World Diamond Mark, and of course to the GJEPC. Alex, thank you.
First, I need to start. You end it? Okay, and then I will.
And sorry, Sanjay is going to speak.
Please close the doors, because in vote of thanks most of the people get out and go out. Yes, it was a historic moment not only for India but for the whole diamond industry of the world, because two top people of two great nations or large nations got together on one platform for the diamond industry. It's itself a proud moment for the whole diamond industry. And Alex and probably World Diamond Mark, which you are trying to promote the diamond, because of this event most of the diamonds are promoted the world over to a great extent. And on a lighter note, I would say that this was a conference where not only two great nations, two great heads of two great nations met, but we had two inaugurations, two moderators and 3 vote of thanks. That also is probably a unique. But this is not a custom to say a vote of thanks, but it is coming from the heart, and the industry and particularly German Jewelry Export Promotion Council and World Diamond Mark Foundation are indebted to lot many people. And because somebody said that it has taken us only 2 to 3 months, and it was conveyed to everybody that it was a huge effort on part of all of us to put up this 2-day extravaganza. We are thankful to Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, Mr. Rajiv Kher, Mr. Mohapatra, Mr. Siddharth Singh, Director General, and the whole Government of India. The whole Ministry of Commerce, PM office was behind us to put up this conference. And because of their effort that we have been able to get input in, and we have been able to put this show in this Vigyan Bhavan. Because otherwise we would not have got this Vigyan Bhavan also probably. And in this December, all the hotels were full when we could not get any venue to hold the conference, and they were kind enough to get us this beautiful place. Rupa Datta and her team, they worked relentlessly hard. Probably she was almost every day, few hours on the phone with Sabyasachi Ray, giving instruction to him, and Sabyasachi giving answers and instructions to the government also on some aspects. Speakers, I don't want to tell the names of all the speakers, because we know that a lot of people have to catch the flight. Even I have to catch a flight of 6:30, 6:45. So all the speakers, thank you very much. We are indebted and we are grateful to all of you, all the way from different parts of the world. On short notice you have come to enlighten us, to give your instincts and whatever your experiences are to us. We are all grateful. On behalf of the whole diamond industry, we are grateful to all of you. The partners, the sponsors, particularly Al Rosa and all the sponsors, it was due to their support that we have been able to put this. Otherwise, we had no money. Council had not given me money to put up this conference. They had asked me and Alex to get the money from outside, because we had certain limited budgets for that and we had not earmarked for this. But it was due to their support that we have been able to do this conference to a great extent. So Al Rosa also we are grateful to. Vigyan Bhavan, this wonderful venue, as I said. And whatever probably laurels I am getting, because I have been moving around and trying to stand and people are thinking that I have done the whole thing.
but it would not have been possible without the support of chairman and vice chairman. They had given us free hand to do whatever we wanted to do, and few committee members, Anup Mehta, Russell Mehta and Rajiv Mehta, I would be failing in my duty if I don't tell their names, because they have been fully supportive, and any minute whenever we have called them, they have been there to support me at any time of the day. In any difficulties, they were with me. Thank you very much, all three of them. All agencies who have put up this wonderful show, though technical difficulties were there, problems of security were there, machines were not working, and you cannot expect, I'm sorry to say, but in Vigyan Bhavan probably a facility of Taj or 5-star hotel. Then price difference is also there. So whatever was there, we have been able to get it. And last but not the least, Alex, your effort, it was, let me confess, the original idea of doing this conference during Putin's visit came from Alex. A big round of applause to him. He was the man who told me and came to India and told us that during Putin's visit, let us hold this conference. And then we took up the idea. Ultimately, we did the whole thing. That is a different matter, but it was your idea. And the full GJEPC team, under the leadership of Sabyasachi Ray, particularly Delhi Secretariat, they have done a wonderful job under the guidance of the Delhi convener and under the guidance of Sabyasachi Ray, who is the executive director. I don't see him, probably is trying to, he is there. Under your leadership, Council has achieved one more feather in their cap. And the PMBD team, and they have been also working really hard, because I know that probably the program of the day, everybody has been asking me why there is no program in the, you have not given. But you believe me, we had to change the timings of the program and the speakers' names 50 times probably in this last 1 month. Anyways, that is what on a lighter note. And thank you very much to the press. And I hope that all of you were taken good care of, and safe journey back home. And thank you very much to both the moderators, Chaim and Kashini. You have done a wonderful job. Chaim particularly. You have handled hundreds of conferences, and all of us are aware. But she has also been part of it, and I hope both of you together hold more conferences of diamonds and jewelry. Thank you so much.
Alex.
I must say something. This is one of the most modest people in the world. His name is Sanjay Kothari. If it wasn't for him, nothing would have happened. And he did, first of all, I am grateful for you. He did my job in all sorts of things. And also in this farewell note, you mentioned everybody whom I wanted to mention. I'm not going to do it again. I just wanted to speak about you as the one who has all the ideas, and Vipul, your support from the first meeting we had. When you came in for 2 minutes, you said, great idea, we'll do it. And it's done. You see, it's done. So thank you very much. Thank you, Pankaj. Sabyasachi, you were the best. And I wanted to mention Dolly, whom you did mention, and other people from Mumbai who came here. They're incredible. And just to finish on the serious note, we think it was an incredible event put together by Indians for the sake of the whole diamond community. This is the first World Diamond Conference that was conceived by the World Diamond Mark. It's not the last one, but India has put us in the absolutely impossible position, because you cannot go lower than this. And I don't know how to go higher than this, I tell you frankly. And this is now the enormous burden of us, how to make it happen again, at least at the same level. It's not the better one. And the very last question, the very last sentence, the World Diamond Mark, in consideration of the requests put together by different stakeholders here in Delhi, I would like to announce that we have taken decision to put together a think tank of the stakeholders of the industry, including the miners, including the German Jewelry Expert Promotion Council, who are already there. I'm not talking about the WFDB who are there. We would very much like to convene small private, serious meeting of brainstorming about where the industry will go. I think we have put the cornerstone of this idea here in Delhi, and the honor of this will always stay with India, but we move forward, and I am happy that Jean-Marc and other people from the miners, they're happy with this idea, and I invite everybody who seriously think that they can contribute something to this cause to join, and obviously we will put the announcement when, where and who at the proper time. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Okay. May I invite Chairman and Vice Chairman of the Council? It is not a mutual admiration committee that I talk good of Alex and Alex talks good of me. May I invite Chaim, please? Chaim, you have been a wonderful moderator. And not only we, but the whole diamond industry love you. They deserve a big round of applause. And one to Kashini. Kashini.
Thank you.
We are privileged to have Mr. Ram Tirath, DGEP from Government of India. Sir, we are grateful that you have come, and it is very encouraging. We want you to come on the stage also, please. Chairman. Thank you so much, friends. Now only press conference. Press people can remain here if they want to have any questions, and if not, we'll be happy. Just joking. Because we have passed 2 serious days, that's why. Oh, I'm sorry, there is no press conference. I'm sorry about it. We go home.